You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 226. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you change your relationship with alcohol, and it turns out to be the best thing you have ever done. I'm Anna, coach to overachievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around their drinking. If you have ever wondered what your life would look like with less wine in it, you are in the right place. Hi everybody, welcome back to the podcast. All right, we have a different type of episode today. In fact, we have one of my favorite ones. This is where I get to talk to one of my clients, one of my lovely clients, about where they are now and about their journey to how they've changed their relationship with alcohol. And I really want to thank Kate for coming on. In fact, I want to thank all of my clients who are willing to come and sit here across from me with the microphone and talk about something, right? That is, for many of us, it is a very personal journey. But I think for you, my lovely listeners, to hear from people like Kate in her words, and you can hear the emotion behind her words, right? You can hear what she's saying, how this has changed her life. This, I want you to see, is what is on offer to you, right? And we talked today about having the doubts. There were all the doubts before, right? Is this going to work, right? This is very normal. If that is you, this is so normal. But if you just need to, I always say, you just need to have a little bit of faith, a little bit of belief, and then we can carry on. You can then borrow my belief in you that you can get the result that you desire. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Kate. And if this is something that you want, if you want to change your relationship with alcohol, go ahead and go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or you can email me, anna@90dayslater.co. And then maybe in a few months' time, it will be you sitting here talking about how tremendous your life is because you took the plunge and you now have a completely and different relationship with drinking. All right, here's Kate. So Kate, so lovely to see you again. Thank you so much for coming back, and especially for being willing to share your experience of working with me, because I know that these are the episodes that people love the most, right? Because people can hear me saying this and there's this and this, but it's really when they hear and people like your words that it makes all the difference. So I'm very grateful for you putting the time in here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and share my journey with you and I. It was great.
I mean, just being able to do that, to say we've done this. There's always obviously ongoing with life, but just to see we got to this point is something to celebrate. So first of all, let's start with maybe, Kate, you could tell me a little bit about yourself before we were working together. How would you describe your drinking, your relationship with alcohol? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so before we started working together, it was very off and on. I'd say like black and white with the alcohol. I'd either be drinking a lot or trying not to drink at all, and having sporadic days here and there, trying different things, not working out, going back to old patterns. So yeah, it was all over the place basically. And I was listening to one of your podcasts, and I really liked your style, and it just seemed like something that could really help me. So I sent you a message.
Excellent. Indeed, I remember. So it's interesting you talk about trying all the things. I think this is very common, right? When I first talk with people, there's normally a laundry list of things. Do you remember some of the things that you tried before we were working together?
Yeah, so I read a couple different books and really tried the abstinence route, which, as you know, wasn't really my style either. But it just seemed to be a lot of the information that was out there was really like, stop drinking, don't ever drink again, that kind of thing. And it didn't really resonate with me because, that's just not what I wanted. That wasn't my vision for my relationship with alcohol. So even though I tried those things, it it just ended up didn't work out, you know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be committed to something, to an approach, if you're thinking, I actually don't know that I want that goal, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's, and it's interesting you say that with the abstinence, because I think it does presuppose, this is one of the reasons I do the work I do, is that anyone who has any kind of struggle with this, really the only way forward is to just stop drinking entirely. And that's filled with, and if it works for some people, great, but it certainly doesn't with everybody. So you say you heard one of my podcasts and reached out. Why did you decide it was time, right? It was time to do it because I'm sure you remember that moment. It's like, all right, I don't know what this entails, but I'm gonna move forward here.
Yeah, so I think your book had just come out, which
Mm.
was great. So I had gotten a copy of your book and read it through and just really liked like the way you were explaining things and that, you know, it didn't have to be like so black and white or like so not just quitting alcohol altogether. So I listened to some more podcasts and just decided that I think it would be a really good idea if I started working with you because, um, you know, I wasn't happy where I was, but I felt like you could get me closer to the goal that I was seeking. Yeah, if that makes sense.
And what was that goal? What do you think? Did you have a clear idea as to what you wanted the future to look like when it comes to drinking?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to not drink during the week and then have a few on the weekend with my husband or with friends if I was going out, more of like a social drinker because I was just drinking a lot by myself at home
Yeah.
before we started working together. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So you reached out, we had that consultation call, and you said, yeah, I'm going to do it, obviously. Did you have any worries or concerns about that decision, about making that decision in that moment? What came up for you, even though you said yes?
Yes. Well, I was worried that it would just be another one of those tries that failed, you
Hmm.
know, because I read so many books and listened to all different podcasts and did some online work. And I just was afraid, you know, maybe it wouldn't work out. I think that was the main fear that, you know, that it was just one more try that I was going to fail again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is so common. And for anybody listening to this, if that is your fear, right? What we're saying here is it's a real fear. We don't want to
Hmm.
pretend that it isn't there, but Kate is on this podcast because she went through that fear and clearly something happened that she was happy about. So she didn't let that fear be a stop sign. And I think it's such an important point, right? Because and I remember being in that position myself. And what is going to work here, right? I just feel so stuck.
Hmm.
Okay. So one of the things we spent a lot of time talking about was planning and intention, but mostly about building trust in yourself that you can decide something and follow through. Tell me about that. How was that for you?
Yeah, I liked your approach because I thought it was a very gradual process. Like, you know, it didn't just jump into like not drinking at all or um, you know, some of the other things out there. But yeah, like I really like that we started off slow. You know, it seemed it was almost so gradual at the beginning, like I didn't even notice I was changing, and then you would have to point it out to me. And so, yeah, yeah,
That's one of my
I-
favorite
yeah.
things that I remember that. So it's like, well, do you know you did this? You did, and 3 weeks to go, you did this. And you're like, what? Right?
Yeah, yeah. Because I
Right?
hadn't been tracking other than the other programs where you would track your 0 days. I hadn't been, you know, using the app and tracking it and seeing the progress until it was like in black and white, which was good to see over the months that we worked together.
Right. And I think this is also part of, again, this is how identity, we talk about identity shifts, and it is a gradual thing. We do not go from in life with anything. I talk a lot about driving and parking. We don't go from one day to the next being a terrible parker and the next being able to do it. It is this process. And yet somehow when it comes to drinking, we say things like, I've been over drinking for 20 years and now I'm going to be really good all
Mhm.
of a sudden. And so I love that it was gradual for you. Tell me the role of desire, right? Because one of the things we talked about many, many, many times is if you don't want something, it is easy to not have it. And but when we spend our time fighting the desire that we might have to drink, that's when it becomes difficult. So we would talk about taking drama out of a situation, right?
Mhm.
And just being our own best friend. Tell me about that. How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of our work, I think. And I like the fact that we we sort of took what was underneath the drinking, which was that, I needed time to relax. I needed time for
Mm,
myself. I was overdoing everything and then rewarding myself with a drink.
mm,
And I think we kind of picked that apart over the
mm.
months we worked together and discovered that what I really needed was to give myself grace, to give myself a break, to give myself time for myself. Like we would talk about how I would come home from work and just immediately pour a glass of wine, but I didn't. I thought my desire was for the wine, but it was really for giving myself some time, like a break between work and everything I had to do at home, right? So getting sort of underneath what the drinking represented, which I thought was my break, but I actually just wanted a break for myself. So we put some things in place that I could do,
Mhm.
that gave me that same feeling, which is what I really wanted, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we get the
if that makes
feeling, we
sense.
get what you wanted without a side of, 3 glasses of wine every night or whatever it ends up
Hmm.
being.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so interesting to hear you talk about this when you were overdoing all of the things, right? Being the best, this, best, that, best this in your life for everybody. And then the consequence was overdoing the drinking. But when you stop doing all the things for all the people, we stopped needing this other thing, even though you're still showing up and you're still being the mother and the wife and the friend and all of the rest of it. So very good. How would you describe things now, today?
I'm doing really well today. I was talking to you just before that, I kind of want you in my ear. So I joined the Dryish July, and I'm
Yeah.
really excited to hear the audios every day and do some of the exercises,
Yeah.
because I think, it's a journey. I'm not 100% there yet, but I'm, 80% or even, 80% or higher. I'll give myself an A. Uh, but I still sometimes just need a little reminder. So I like how you're still doing these small courses too for people that,
Yeah.
people are new, they can get an idea of how you work, or people that just want to stay in contact with you and, just continue the journey.
That's so fantastic because I think that's one of the things that coaching is, right? It isn't just this one and done thing. It can
Mhm.
change our life. And I love that you're continuing to stay in the world because the more we reinforce and reinforce and reinforce that the easier it is. And it's fun as well, right? It's fun to look after ourselves.
It is.
But
It is.
so I talk a lot about when we change our relationship with alcohol, right? Because it tends to just sort of sit there in our lives and we devote evenings to it and so on, and we don't really know we're doing it. When we change that, we change how we see ourselves and we change what we're capable of, and we just see a different life for ourselves. Tell me about that. Has that been the case for you?
It has. And I think one of the things that we really worked on a lot was, and I think a lot of people might relate to this, is that I always wanted everything to be perfect. You know,
Yeah.
like, I was like a perfect non drinker, I was a perfect wife or mom, or, and so I think like that perfectionism sort of got in my way with some of
Mm,
the other programs too. And it didn't I wasn't really touching on that, but we just got to the place where like, nobody is perfect, everybody makes mistakes,
Yep.
and that, you can work on that, and just like one off day doesn't throw off your whole month or anything like that. You just don't like throw in the towel and start over drinking again. So that was a big shift for me for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic, right? Because being able to pick ourselves up and keep going, because I always say life is going to life us. We just never
Mhm.
know what's around the corner. So let's talk about identity now. And I do remember way back in the early days, when we first spoke, it was like, okay, it was something along the lines of pretty much a daily drinker. You never saw that coming, and that was like not liking that at all. How do you see drinking now with your identity, or do you not? How relevant is it to how you see yourself, or is it not? Just tell me about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, because I'm still like a social drinker, it's still in my life, but I don't see myself as, the daily drinker that I need. I used to tell you, like, the wine is calling me. Like, so we had to unpack that, like, no, it's actually not calling you. I felt like controlled by it, and now I don't. I see it as, like a fun evening out. I'll have a couple of drinks, but I'm not seeing it as like a daily necessity, or, I need it. Like it's more, it's very casual. I say it's kind of in the background now, whereas
Mhm.
before it was really, really in the foreground. And, part of it had become part of my identity over the years, when I was over drinking. And yeah, so I think it's just it's faded. It's not center like it was before, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And again,
Yeah.
this is, I think, a key part because you were very clear. You want to keep alcohol in your life. So there's going to be some degree of focus on it, right? And that's what I also
Mhm.
say that we want to be very conscious of it. And there doesn't have to be this, okay, I'm just not ever going to think about it. I'm never going to drink again. None of that stuff. But I love the way you say it's faded and it's not front and center, because when it's front, we see all of and it's the value of the thinking we put around it, right? When it's front and center and just default, it's like, as you say, I need it, da, 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 da. But when it's not, it's like, okay, if I choose to, I'm going to do that. And that
Mhm.
feels very different in terms of how we are in our lives.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell me, what was your favorite part of this work, or what was the biggest transformation? Did you have like one or two things you like, yeah, that was what I liked the most?
Yeah, I liked that you got me sort of slowing down. And, I mean, because I was just go, go, go all the time until I was exhausted. And then that's when the wine came in to, sort the wine, would slow me down. I think like now I have other ways of, stress reduction, coping. So that was a big change. Like I still, obviously, you can't just, take a holiday and do nothing, but I sort of prioritize things better. I know when I'm getting to, the end of my rope, when I'm going to need a break. I don't go past that like I used to. So
Mhm.
that's been a big shift,
Mm.
in my life, because I think I would just do everything for everyone before. And then there was nothing left for me, and I would just turn to the wine.
Right.
So yeah.
That's so good because I remember we talked a lot about kind of like everyday stress and like the everyday stress, because there's going to be everyday stresses and every something happens at work, or the car won't start, or I don't know, all of these things. And then we have like and I know as we've been working together, you've had some of the like the big life-changing things where we decide to make massive changes in our life, and that brings with it inherently stress. And yet you're sitting here saying, look, I know I don't go past it. I don't go past it, and I'm not looking for alcohols. I was remember talking about it, that alcohol's kind of like the superhero cape on, and it kind of rushes to the rescue. That we don't need that.
Mhm,
We don't need
mhm.
that.
Yeah,
You can
that's
just do
right.
that yourself. Okay, so uh, this is a question that I think is very dear to my heart. There's a lot when we talk about alcohol, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of embarrassment. There's a lot of oh, I shouldn't need help with this, and which is why I'm always so grateful to people like you to just come on and talk about this. But what would you say, Kate, to the person who might be listening to this now and thinking this sounds good, but really, and I know she said she was worried would it work for her, and it did, but really, right, will it work for me? And is this really going to be worth it? Right, because I'm gonna have to pay Anna money
Mhm.
to do this, and what if it doesn't? So what would you say directly to that person now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was there, like you said, like before, wondering if it was going to work and not being sure about it. And I think, yeah, and I did have the thought, and I think we've discussed this that like, I can do it on my own, right?
Mm,
Like,
mm,
I don't need help. Like, I shouldn't need help with this.
mm.
I'm so capable in all my other areas, like, you always talk about us being like overachievers.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of your listeners are for sure. And
yeah,
like, yeah, but just kind of putting that past it because I said to myself, well, it's been going on for years now, and I've tried all like a lot of the things on my own, and it just didn't work. And I think I just needed like a coach, like someone in my corner, right?
mm,
Like you in my corner, in my ear, like I say,
yeah.
and just having that support every week, it made all the difference because none of the other programs that I had tried were like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think the thing with one-on-one, the thing that I particularly enjoy, and I don't, as the coach, and I don't know if your reaction to this is, you really get to know a person, right? We make it very personal. It is very about you. We never have to talk about anything that just isn't relevant for you. We just zero in on just you and your life and what it means to be you in the world.
Right, right. And I think we talked about, I would tell you like how many books I'd read on this and that and everything. But like you said, it wasn't personalized.
Mhm.
And you know, if those books had worked, then I wouldn't have needed the one-on-one, but I just kept,
Yeah.
failing at that. So I think it was just a completely different approach to it, the way that you do things. Yeah.
Yeah, so good, so good. So, is there anything else you want to say that I haven't asked you about? Sort of, I always like to have a catch-all question in case you've got some burning desire to say something, and it's totally fine if you don't.
Yeah, no, I can't say enough good things about working with you. And it's just been like a life-changing experience. And I just hope that, other people care enough about themselves if they're in the same situation to reach out to you and even just have that first call, like that first call where we, just talked. I instantly knew that this was the program for me.
No,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and I like the way you say that, right? You want to, this is about caring about yourself. It's about saying, I always say it's not about saying yes to me or working with me. It's about saying yes to yourself,
Hmm.
seeing
Hmm.
this as as a way forward. Because once you remove this, then the challenge on the thoughts and the headspace that the alcohol takes up, then it's much more beautiful vista out in front of us.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Well, this is so good. Again, thank you so much for your time, being generous with your time, coming back here on the podcast. And I know this is going to be a favored episode. So yeah, thanks so much, Kate. And don't be a stranger. I'm so glad you're in my driest July, and just stay in my well because I think it's just this self-development is such fun.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much, Anna.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for listening to the 90 Days Later podcast. And if you want this for yourself, if you want to completely change your drinking, if you want to have an utterly free and light relationship with alcohol, then give me a call. I work with people one-on-one to help you get to where you want to be around your drinking. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, where it will be a free consultation call where we'll talk about what you want and I will map out the exact path to get you there.